There is a sugar substitute that is reported to help your metabolism work better and burn fat. Now, is this real or is it just too good to be true? So today I'm dishing on the science behind allulose. It's a new kid on the block that researchers and dietitians like me are pretty excited about. By the end of this video, you're gonna know how allulose works, how to eat it, and also a few things to look out for too. May here, I am your friendly neighborhood functional medicine dietitian. I know I just made a Spider-Man reference there, but hey, I am a boy mom with little boys that watch Spider-Man all day long, so hey, totally could be worse, and it's pretty spot on. I love helping people look and feel their best, because when you're the best version of yourself, guess what? Everyone in our universe gets the best of us. And that's what we want, right? Definitely stick around, subscribe to this channel, and you know what? I have a great must-have food guide on how to boost your metabolism. Make sure you grab that down below so you can get started on this journey of looking and feeling your best. Just as a side note, in a perfect world, I would tell everyone to have their sweet tooth pulled because there's so many things about having excess sugar that really do mess with our metabolism. And you know what? Trust me. Even my own husband has a sweet tooth. What is he doing on Friday nights when we have Bible study dinners? He's eating desserts behind my back while I'm in a conversation. Literally, he has his back turned to me while he's eating his dessert, so I don't see him. And I would love to say I could pull his sweet tooth, but it's not worth my marriage to fight over that particular battle. So enter sugar substitutes like allulose, where we can still derive pleasure from things like sugar without paying such a high price. And you know what? Allulose actually might just be tipping the scale in your favor for once because the science behind allulose is pretty promising. So let me talk about that right now so you can understand how it works. So quick intro before we dive in. There's a lot of different sugars out there. There's kind of natural sugars like fructose in fruit, lactose in dairy. Then there's added sugars from things like honey, beets, cane, sugar. And then there's also sugar substitutes. And that's where artificial sweeteners come in. That's also where natural sugar substitutes come in. And where we would kind of, say don't go there is artificial sweeteners. These are things like Splenda, NutraSweet, Equal. You'll see those, at the tea station, at the local hotel, but you'll also see those in packaged foods, not listed as those brand names, but as their chemical names. And I'll give you a list here on the screen so you can kind of keep an eye out for these because in our world and functional medicine, we're not really fans of all of the artificial sweeteners just because they are made in a lab. And you know what? There is some research supporting that they hurt our microbiome, which we know our microbiome is crucial for us to have a functioning metabolism. So out with artificial sweeteners. But what about these other sugar substitutes? We have stevia, monk fruit, sugar alcohols, like anything ending in an OL, xylitol, maltitol, sorbitol, erythritol. And then also these kind of new kids on the block like allulose and trehalose. Out of all these sugar substitutes that are natural, allulose has been getting a lot of attention in the world of metabolism, burning fat, blood sugars, and even brain health. To be honest, the other new kid on the block, trehalose, is also really interesting. And if you really like this video, I'd be happy to do another video on that other sugar substitute as well. All right, so here's why I'm so excited about allulose. It's also known in the literature as D-psychose, which honestly, allulose sounds way prettier. But if you're looking for it in PubMed, that's another synonym for allulose that you could look for. Allulose is a naturally occurring rare sugar found in things like figs and other fruits. It seems to have a really nice effect on lowering blood sugar after you eat. So the studies that were done in humans saw that eating as little as 5 grams, which is about a teaspoon of allulose before a meal, helped to lower how quickly your blood sugar spiked after that meal, which is really interesting. There was also another study, which was done in Korea on over 100 participants, men and women, where they actually saw that about a little over a tablespoon a day of allulose helped people burn fat without changing anything in their diet and lifestyle, especially fat in the midsection, which is super exciting for a lot of us who tend to be more apple-shaped or tend to kind of have more belly fat than we would like. And by the way, I do talk about belly fat in my belly fat video, and I do mention allulose in that video because again, if there was a sugar that didn't contribute to belly fat but actually got rid of it, wouldn't that be amazing? So the studies are really promising in this area. And I know it feels far-fetched to say, but I would say allulose out of all the sugars I've seen is probably one that does help you burn fat based on the research. By the way, a tablespoon a day sounds like a lot, but the average American is eating 17 teaspoons a day of sugar on average. So divide that by 3. I mean, that's like what is that? Almost 6 tablespoons of sugar a day. So 1 tablespoon is nothing. And it's, something you could sweeten like a dressing with or sweeten a tea with at the beginning of a meal where you're not like necessarily having to eat spoonsful of sugar. Anyways, I did want to say there are also a lot of studies on animals being done on allulose where they're looking at neuroprotection. And again, that's only in animal studies right now, but again, very positive. They also looked at dosing and they were able to say there's not really a maximum dose that would cause negative effects. So I'm not saying like eat as much as you want, but there doesn't seem to be a toxicity profile on allulose right now. I've had people comment that allulose is illegal in Europe and it's not like banned because of something wrong with it. It just hasn't been approved yet. So, that's one of those things where like we have melatonin here in the US that you can buy over the counter, but like you have to get a prescription for melatonin in places like New Zealand. Just because it's not available in another country doesn't necessarily mean it's not safe. So if you're thinking about dosing allulose, it would be like a teaspoon before meals if you're trying to lower blood sugars after meals, or about a tablespoon a day, a little bit more than that, if you're trying to burn fat. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't eat more, but that's just kind of like the minimum dose, right? I do want to say that allulose is currently being made from corn because you can enzymatically, meaning using an enzyme, you can convert fructose into allulose. They look very similar. And so that's kind of a cheap way to make allulose versus like harvesting it from fruits when there's only a little bit in that fruit. And a lot of the fructose is derived from corn. So that is a caveat. If you know you're sensitive to corn, then I would be avoiding allulose. The other thing is you want to make sure that the allulose is non-GMO organic because you don't want to be eating anything derived from corn that is GMO related. If you're someone that has IBS or you just have, a lot of sensitivity towards sugar alcohols, you might want to be careful with allulose. I've had several patients out of many, many patients who've had allulose because I've recommended it. I've had a handful say, you know what, May, that stuff just gives me the runs. And so you'll know right away if allulose does that to your stomach. So I would say for everyone who's not sure, start off with a small amount and slowly work your way up and pay attention to any of those negative side effects that you might experience. Oh, the other big thing that kind of is frustrating for a lot of people is allulose is only 70% as sweet as sugar. So you do have to use like 30% more to get the same sweetness. I honestly love doing an allulose monk fruit blend because monk fruit's like 200 times sweeter than sugar. So then it's a little bit more spoonable where you're not feeling like you're dumping the whole bag just to sweeten like 1 cup of matcha. So if that's you and you really do like to have that sweetness in there, then I would do a blend. I wouldn't necessarily do like a erythritol allulose blend. Erythritol's had a little bit of negative attention in the world of cardiovascular health. I won't get into that today, but make sure if it's like allulose and something else that it's not allulose and an artificial sweetener or allulose and erythritol or allulose and sugar. I would do something like allulose and monk fruit or allulose and stevia as a blend. And there's a lot of companies out there doing that. I do also want to point out that if you're not a baker, but you enjoy eating sometimes a baked sweet or a sweet treat, or even like a protein bar that's sweetened with some kind of sugar, there are now products that are sweetened with allulose that are starting to become more and more common, which is wonderful. So the 2 companies that I love are Designs for Health for the bars, and they also have allulose sweetened chocolate called FX chocolate. That's one of my favorite chocolates because it also is a supplement. So you could get 5,000 IU of vitamin D in a square of chocolate. And I can tell you for your non-compliant relatives and maybe you yourself, if you hate swallowing pills, you might as well be eating chocolate for your supplements. So I'll link those down below. The other one though is RX sugar. And I requested samples of RX sugar to be sent to the clinic I work at in Austin, and it got devoured by the practitioners. I was hoping it would trickle down to patients, but you know what? The practitioners ended up buying RX sugar after that. So RX sugar comes in a spoonable, like a liquid, and also they sell these sweet treats, almost like a Twix Musketeer type of treat. They're so good that my kids were stealing samples out of my office. And so I had to tell them, these are off limits, these are mommies. But I like to cut them up into little squares and put them on my chia seed pudding. That's one of my favorite ways to kind of have a little treat without actually biting into a candy bar. So if that's you and you're weaning yourself off of sweet treats like that, but you want to have something on occasion that can really satisfy that need without you going off the deep end and gorging yourself on Twix, then these sweet treats would be the next best thing. Because a lot of my clients love just doing Q&A with me, I thought it would be a great interactive gift to my YouTube community to do live Q&As once a month with you all. So check out the community tab for the next Q&A. I'm thinking about doing it like at the end of the month, every month, maybe on like a Thursday. So anyways, the day might change, but it'll be once a month. Definitely check that out on my community tab. All right, so back to allulose. I just wanted to share a quick story. A lot of times we have a sweet tooth because we have like attached nostalgic memories around sweets. And so the classic example is like baking with your parents in the kitchen and like being able to lick the cookie dough off the spoon. I have a similar memory of my grandmother making these sticky dumplings that were for 端午节, which is like dragon boat festivals. And she would stuff them with sticky rice and red bean paste. And my grandmother would always let me lick the red bean paste off the spoon. And so in my adult years, when I think of like a really sweet treat that I'm excited about, I think of these sticky rice, red bean paste dumplings. And so recently I ended up buying my own red beans, making them into a paste. And instead of buying them, honestly, in a can already sweetened, I made my own with allulose. And so anyways, you can do stuff like that, like bring back old traditions and do a really fun dessert for a very special occasion and know that you're not feeding yourself or your loved ones something that they're going to end up paying for at the end of the season, right? So every time you can do a swap like that, where you know you're doing yourself a favor and other people a favor, like why not? So I would put allulose in that realm for anyone who likes to bake, for anyone who does need sweets in their life, or they're trying to wean off sweets, but they want to wean onto something that's the least harmful and the most pleasurable. Allulose is kind of my go-to right now. So I hope that you would try it. Let me know down below your comments on what your experience is with allulose and what creations you come up with in terms of incorporating allulose into your life. Even you could practice maybe wearing a CGM and having allulose at the beginning of a meal and see if it does affect your postprandial glucose, which is your, after meal blood sugar. So let me know down below how that works out for you, and we'll see you real soon.